Okay, hey, and we're back here for another week of Bloodbath Tactics. This time we have a pretty exciting guest on, Matthew Sector. He is a Tau player and a very, very avid Tau player. He just went 5-1 at the most recent Canadian tournament, Wet Coast. Also was at the LVO and went 5-1.
Huge.
Almost made the Shadow round, but we'll let him speak more to it. I'm also joined here by Ben, as always.
Everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite Ben.
Yeah, it's happy to be back. I heard you had a good show with Jake.
Yeah,
our resident Custodies pro.
Yeah, a little Custodies fun, and yeah, it was awesome actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and only no pee breaks, so it was great.
No pee breaks. What's the point if you don't go to the bathroom at least 3 or 4 times in a podcast?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Thank you again to Matt for joining us on the show. Really excited to talk some Tau. I'm pretty unfamiliar. I've only played against them like once or twice, so to dive into some real game knowledge and tactics and stuff is going to be excellent. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Perfect. We're going to just go through this whole episode and teach you step by step how to play the Tau.
Oh, nice.
They're super cool, man. Like,
they are super
I
cool.
think even Jake, me and him have been playing a lot of TTS, and he wants to play some Tau. As soon as the book comes out and the proper points and everything, he's probably going to throw down with some Tau.
Oh, wow.
He just likes the new and shiny.
Yeah,
right.
The reason they do that is because on TTS you don't want to move every single model. Tau, you can just stand there and shoot. You got to skip half the game.
That's true, hey? Just chill, stay back, and just shoot.
So much easier.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so how did you start your 40K journey?
Mm-hmm.
My 40K journey.
That's always what we start with.
Perfect. So when I was 10 years old, Chinook Center opened up Games Workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Games Workshop became a big thing, and me and a friend went there, and we started playing fantasy because none of my family liked guns. So that's why I joined the military later on in life. Spoilers. No, but so I started playing Wood Elves.
Okay.
Because they have bows. It's very similar to like Lord of the Rings.
Sure. Yeah.
It was like the perfect introduction, and I loved the models. And then we discovered 40K, and of course, because I played Wood Elves, I picked up Tau. It was like Wood Elves in battlesuits.
Interesting. I would have thought the natural transition would be Wood Elves to Eldar, but you went Wood Elves to Tau.
There's Eldar in fantasy, so it would be Eldar to Eldar. But yeah,
right. Oh, geez, yeah, I don't even know.
What about? Well, okay. So for Wood Elves to Tau, did you like Gundam Wing at all?
I didn't even know about Gundam.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think there's like an external influence on it other than Wood Elves and Tau playing similar styles.
Did you ever get into the Lord of the Rings game at all?
I didn't, actually. I don't like those themed games because I get a favorite character and I love that character and I just want to play it. But at my heart, I'm a competitive player and I want to play the best thing.
Gotcha. Is it Gollum? Is that your favorite character?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
My precious.
Everybody know Gollum is OP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea if he's OP. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Is there OP things in that game? I think they're all...
Yeah.
Everything's relatively weak.
Aragorn is OP.
Is he actually strong?
Yeah, he got like extra points to do more actions. And then I remember we were playing the game once with my brother and I just had Aragorn and he had a whole bunch of Urukai.
Yeah.
And I won. I just had
one character.
Yeah, and it was just like boom, boom.
Seems right.
Yeah,
that feels right.
Yeah. Anyways,
so got into Tau, and this was when you were young. You said when you were 10-ish years old.
10-ish years old, 10 to 13. Played it for a bit, and then I stopped because I was in football. I was in life.
Sweet. Yeah. Of course.
Giant nerd. I don't mind being a nerd, but it didn't last that long.
Nerds are not usually known for their football, but it could happen.
Yeah. So that was my early introduction to 40K, and that was a very long time ago. That was very different from where I am now and what I'm doing now.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you're playing, obviously as a kid, you're playing for fun. Now you're saying you play for the competition, the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so I played that and I played chess as a kid. Okay. And I realized as a kid that I am a competitive player.
Sure.
I want to face the best and I want to beat them. I want them...
Naturally.
When I sit down against an opponent, I want them to play their absolute best. I want them to roll well. I want them to have the best game of their life. And then I want to kick their ass.
Yeah.
That is what I want.
So good.
I think that's actually a really interesting point, especially when it comes to a game like 40K, because... there's something to be said for in a competitive atmosphere. I feel there's not a lot of games like 40K or maybe Warhammer in general, where both you and your opponent are trying to play you're almost playing against the game state, right? Like you're playing by intent, you're moving stuff here. When your opponent makes a very obvious mistake, even in a competitive atmosphere, it's pretty often that players will say, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Because I could overwatch you or whatever. You don't see that a lot in a lot of other competitive atmospheres. So when you say, I want to play them at their best and beat them, I often see that that's a common trend with very competitive players. You want to actually help that opponent play amazing and still smash their face.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's when it gets rewarding. That's when you know I am a better player than them. I do not want to come away from a game and somebody tell me, well, the dice really worked for you. No.
Right.
I want them to come away from a game and be like, how did you get me? How did I lose that game when everything went my way anyway?
Right. And that's when you're always just sitting in you're sitting up to like in the wee hours of the night just thinking like, what the hell did I do wrong? This move was here, this move was here. What did I do? Like, what was it? Oh, it's probably this. Well, we don't know.
That
we just don't know.
That is truly where my nerd culture comes in, and I look through the games, and I've gone through games, and I've added up every secondary, how many average points I've scored on it, on what turn, which secondaries my army just isn't doing, and why I'm messing it up, and so it's true. That's
and not for lack of a better word, that's why the obsessive mind over those things allows you to excel in the competitive scene, to get better every game. It's never about, you know, oh, okay, well, I lost that game. Well, I learned how to move better this way. But then that, like, okay, well, where did I go wrong? Where could I have moved this? Or how could I have approached this? Even this matchup, did I deploy wrong? Did I do something wherever it was? And then all of a sudden you start applying it to your next game, and it's like adding on to another layer of the onion where you're now a whole onion.
Absolutely.
Now you are a whole onion.
Now
you're one Shrek. You're one ogre.
You peel off the layers.
There's lots of layers. But so why Tau?
So what I want to play in a game is I want to play an army. I do not want a stat check army. I don't want an army that is always going to do well but never do the best. I want an army where it reflects my playstyle. If I play really well, I'm going to do really well in the game. If I play poorly, I'm going to do very poorly in the game.
Right.
So I could name some armies where they just have such good fundamentals that you can screw up every decision, and you're still going to have...
Call them out.
Custodies.
Call them out.
Custodies.
Is Custodies one of them, you think?
Custodies, absolutely one of them.
What else is going on?
You leave a guy poking out behind a piece of cover, and you get shot by everything, and you can just survive because you can make 4-up saves, and you can make some feel no pains.
Right now, yeah, of course.
Like night players.
Hot take over here.
Hot take alert. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
There he is.
It doesn't make them bad armies. They're very good armies to play. They're just a style that I don't want to play.
Sure. Okay.
I want to play the armies where I get punished and I know that I screwed up.
Perfectly fair. And I wanted to not challenge you on that, but dig into that a little bit. Is it just a coincidence that the faction you played as a 10-year-old kid is also that same faction? You just think that's kind of how it worked out, or is maybe a little bit of nostalgia bias in there?
There's definitely nostalgia bias in there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But
there's nothing wrong with that, mind you. Nothing wrong with that.
I think it's luck. So there's other armies that play like this, like Eldar play like this.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's not like this is the only army.
Grey Knights, I think, would probably be in the same kind of category.
Absolutely, Grey Knights.
High skill cap for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So if you see a Grey Knights player, you know they must be a decent person. No,
a decent person.
Yeah, a decent person. A decent player.
Are we plugging someone here?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
No. So that's because I played it as a kid. That's why I play it now.
Sure,
I just got lucky that they're also the type of style.
That's
or fair. As a kid, in my subconscious, I knew this is the style I liked.
That's true. Yeah, you could have been drawn to it because you were kind of had that personality forming at the time, and you go from there.
Hey, absolutely,
that makes perfect sense.
I've always been drawn to like mid-range strategies, and that's just always what I kind of lean towards.
I don't know if I have a natural inclination. I think I do. I play Necrons and Imperial Knights, so I like tough. I like those stat checks. I play 3 Catan in my current competitive list. I'm going to stat check.
That's stat check.
Stat check you all day. 3 Catan, a Wraith Blob. That's stat check all day. So fair enough. I'm that guy. I'm the guy who needs the crutch of the stat check to get me over the hump. All right?
Well, there's positives to that too, because you could say that you're smart and you want to play the stuff that's good. You want to play the stuff that's tough. You want to force your opponent to have to think up really unique solutions to beat you.
Right.
So we could talk positively about any army.
That's true. You're right. Thank you. I don't have to be a shitter.
Yes. You just choose to be one.
I just choose to be
Yeah.
Very good point.
Well, also it's not their fault that you got some Necrons and then all of a sudden they were good.
That's true.
Right?
We've talked about this a bit. Necrons is my first army, and I've actually not played them competitively at all. I've played only Knights in tournaments because they are kind of the big boogeyman right now. But after some thought about it and after a rough tournament with Knights, I was like, Necrons aren't always going to be top of the heap, right? Everybody knows the meta shifts and new codexes come out and nerfs happen.
Rumble in the Rockies terrain was pretty hard for Knights though.
Yeah,
too. I thought you had a little bit more struggle or at least challenges than others.
Yeah, for sure. It happens. It's not the end of the world. It's just like play your army while it's hot. Like if you're a hardcore meta chaser, we can discuss that. It's like whether that's ethical or not, whatever, who cares? It's just a game. But I don't have to consider myself a meta chaser if I've collected Necrons since I was 12 years old, and they're like one of my two armies. So
yeah, how can you be blamed?
Probably okay.
The 12-year-old you should have made better choices in life.
How dare you? You at 34.
Love it. So we obviously, if we're talking Tau, we have to talk a little bit new Codex. We want to dive into some of your recent tournament performances because you've done very, very well. Congratulations as well.
Thank you.
But initial thoughts on the Codex. What are you thinking so far?
Absolutely. So there is a lot of hate on the internet for the Codex right now.
Is
really?
there?
Yes.
Like what?
Ooh,
The Tau players are very insulted by the crisis suits
getting split up.
Yep, split up, getting forced into
and
a
those,
certain
and that.
playstyle.
Sorry to interrupt. And the two stratagems kind of going from Kayun going over to Retaliation.
Yes, move, shoot, move, moving away from their normal detachments. There's quite a few things. Cyclic Ion Blasters disappearing from most of the Codex.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Can only be taken as a one of and only on commanders.
And
now.
for an idiot who doesn't know much about Tau, the Cyclics are the Melta equivalent? Or no?
The Cyclics are the 822 overcharged guns. Fusion blasters would be the Melta.
Gotcha.
Cyclics are the shouldn't exist gun. They're 3 shots at 711 or overcharged for 822.
Right.
But when you add up to 4 on a suit, you get to
that was the big
number.
crisis block
unguided,
forward.
guided by Tetras, you're re-rolling, and then you get sustained 2s on turns 2.
Okay, so those are no longer on crisis suits at all?
Yes, so those are not on. So this is a new codex. You'll have to forgive me if something is wrong here.
Of course, yeah.
But those are no longer on.
You can tell me literally anything, and I'd be like,
well, if you do get something wrong, just know it's on the internet now.
Yeah,
so,
perfect.
Listen, the comments will have their fun. It's fine. It's
I
all
expect
good.
everybody to check me on everything after
problem.
my
You're
one
good. You're
read through of the codex.
Yeah, no worries.
With my perfect memory. No, crisis suits, normal crisis suits will not get cyclics anymore, and commanders are limited to 1 cyclic per commander.
Okay.
And every commander will probably take that 1 cyclic.
Right. Okay.
But we're looking at a huge decrease in the amount of
Damage
hazardous
output.
tests the towers are taking.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And also, they're down to 3 now for crisis suits, right? 3 mans.
Yep. No more 6 mans for crisis suits.
Okay.
They're down to 3.
Interesting. Okay.
And now there's certain loadouts now, and they all have names now, right? So there's 3 different ones. Is that am I right?
Yeah. So what we were doing before is we were giving you a sandbox to plan. They were giving you 3 to 6 crisis suits. Build them however you want. So they all have 4 hard points. You can put weapons on the hard points. You can put a 4-up shield generator on the hard points. You can put I don't want penalties to shoot on the hard points. Fall back and shoot is another one you can put on the hard points. So
and these drones, or what are these called?
No, just hard points. Literal hard points.
Okay,
on the models, they're literal spacing to put guns on the arms and on the shoulders.
Cool.
So most Tau players would take 3 cyclics and a shield to give them a 4+ invul.
Right.
So it was a toolbox, but that's all the suits had. They had no basic abilities. Their basic ability was auto 6 advance, which is nice, but not a huge ability.
Yeah, whatever.
So instead of that, they've given them a very limited window. Now it's 3 crisis suits. They have a name, and each 3 do one specific job.
Right.
The close-up ones are good at killing monsters and vehicles.
Okay.
The burst cannon ones get extra AP or reroll hits. Actually, I think it is.
They all get extra AP within 12.
That's for the retaliation cadre, which we'll get into.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
But so you have 3 sets of 3 crisis suits. Now, because they split that up, they also added a huge buff, which people are not considering, to each one. So the fusion crisis suits, instead of just having hard points, now get a buff that you reroll all wounds against monsters or vehicles.
Right.
Oh,
now that came out of nowhere. So
with a strength what weapon?
Strength 9, AP 4, D6,
Incredible.
Melta
Super
2.
good.
So before, if you look at my unit, I would take 3 crisis suits, each with 3 fusions and a shields for a 4-up invul.
Right.
And I would have no benefit like that. So that's 9 shots for 3 suits. Now, if I compare it to the new Codex, it's 3 suits that only get 6 shots instead of the 9.
Right.
But I'm re-rolling all wounds.
Which is amazing.
Against monsters.
Against the
vehicles, which
targets
is
you want to put them into.
Exactly.
Right, obviously.
Especially the wounds, yeah. That's big.
But there's another benefit that I think is a very large, what's that word when it's a hidden buff?
sleeper?
Yeah,
Hidden
sleeper.
gem or sleeper.
Which is
sleeper
they
stat,
pass that buff to the commander that joins them. And the
Oh,
commanders
sure.
didn't change. So I can take a commander with any weapon and give them that specific buff.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Gotcha.
wow.
So there's a lot of play. As I said at the start of this podcast, really, is Tau have a lot of play to really show your true potential
Right.
and your skill.
Right.
Because
High skill ceiling for
high
sure.
skill ceiling.
Yeah, which is the kind of
Absolutely.
army you want to play. Right.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
exactly where I want to be.
That's super, super cool. That's good to know because, again, I've only played into Tau maybe twice. And the one time I played him in a tournament, like in a competitive format, he took the local guy. I think his name's Ethan. He took the
Ian.
Ian.
Sorry,
Ian Willis.
Ian.
Yeah.
Is it Ian?
Yeah, it's Ian.
Yeah.
With the
yes. We're both like, yeah, it's Ian.
Listen,
Yeah.
if you say so.
There's only 2 Tau players.
There's just 2 of them.
Yeah, so.
He brought the what's it called, the Taunar supremacy, battle supremacy, whatever it's called, the big giant 750 points.
Maybe it wasn't Ian. There's another Tau player.
There is another one. I'm pretty sure his name's Ethan.
It might be Ethan.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you know what? Because he brought to that tournament. He brought that beautifully painted.
This army was gorgeous.
Oh
I
yeah.
have pictures of it on my phone.
That's
like,
not Ian.
No,
Ian was playing the red Tau like a couple tables
No,
down.
this was like
I know.
classic tan colored Tau and playing the whatever it is 750 point like Forge World
Just
supremacy
ridiculous.
crazy. You know, you're familiar with what the
I
the
am
profile
very
is.
familiar with it.
Okay, so quick tangent. This is my experience with Tau. He took that. The rest of his army, he had the battle suits, he had whatever, right? And I was playing my knights, and I'm petrified of this giant, this like child-sized gun, like human child-sized gun, and he didn't have any shots round 1. He moved it out because it's got towering, got good line of sight round 2. Shot all of his guns and did literally 0 damage.
No.
Literally 0 damage. Like, I just made a clutch saves. He rolled bad. The big railgun, whatever it's actually called in that thing, is like strength 28 or some.
Is that like a hammer? Like a better hammer gun? What's that called?
It's like a hammerhead is what you're
Hammerhead,
thinking.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like a storm surge mixed with a hammerhead
Like
mixed
that.
with
It's like
3
flat, like 12 damage or something
Yeah.
like that. It's strength 25, flat 12, like crazy.
I really want that to kill your knights.
Dude, I was
Yeah.
petrified.
Yeah, for sure.
And he shot it. It was being spotted, or someone was spotting for it. So he was hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. I think it's 3 shots. He rolled 3 2s, and then he's like, "We're just done here." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fair." I think he played like 1 or 2 more turns, and he's like, "I'm done with this game."
Yeah, I think some players, you see a data sheet and you judge it based off of the stats on that data sheet,
course.
but you forget when you put all of your eggs in one basket, you're holding a basket of eggs.
Wow.
It doesn't
Yeah.
always work for
Hey.
you.
Yeah.
That's a nugget of wisdom right there.
Yeah, I got you
And
covered.
who even wants a basket of eggs, right?
Right after Easter.
Sign
we're
me
saying
up.
that
After
too.
Easter.
Sign me up.
Eggs are expensive, man.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, weird tangent story just to say, Tau have always kind of fascinated me with, because it's kind of the opposite of, like I said, of what I play. I play tough, stat check, you throw your stuff in the middle and like say deal with me. Tau's the complete opposite. So very happy to have you. And any other comments on the new Codex?
Well, we got tons. We're gonna go through each attachment. I think a little bit.
Oh, you want to
hey?
like break them
absolutely.
down? Let's do it. Heck yeah.
Yeah, there's so many changes that we could talk all night about it.
Love it.
But we can at least focus on the important things that people are going to see, that people want to know about, that people want to understand when they're going to face it. Because
the people have to know.
people have to know
Because apparently online they're like, so we're obviously not in the Tau circles of people complaining because we had no idea. People are complaining because of the crisis suit split up. You think that's not that big of a deal? It's better.
I think it is better.
Okay,
I think
fantastic, yep.
so. This is getting into the detachments,
Yeah,
but
okay,
I think
sure.
that the Kauyon detachment got, let's say, worse. We
Sure.
can talk about the
Okay.
specifics about it.
I
but
agree.
Let's say it got worse. The Kroot detachment is fun.
I was going to ask you about the
It's
Kroot
cool.
detachment.
It's cool.
Is it memes? It's just memes?
The Kroot detachment is genius. It's smart.
Oh,
it's
genius.
fun. It's absolutely.
Is it also memes?
Yes. The problem is the entire army has nothing stronger than strength 5 when you're playing a Kroot army.
Right. Yeah.
And they didn't want to give the Kroot the same rules as the Tau. Like for the greater good, the army rule doesn't exist on any of the Kroot models.
And
what exists then?
What is the army rule?
Yeah, so that's a really good place to start because
let's start with the Kroot stuff.
Well, the army rule itself,
No,
because you need to know this when you face it, because you want to play this properly. You want to know how to face it. So in the new book, they have a really nice depiction of it, but I'm going to explain it as well as I can here.
Oh, this is the spotting.
Yes, this is the spotting, and it's really complicated and uses up a bunch of your clock time.
Sure. Yep.
And once you get good at it, it gets to be kind of fun.
Okay.
So it's very simple. You have 2 units, and your opponent has 1 unit.
Yes.
And your units are going to help each other shoot that 1 unit. So you're going to have a spotter, and then you're going to have a guided unit.
Okay.
The spotter is also called the observer unit.
Right.
And then you're going to have an opponent that you're going to shoot at, opponent unit, or spotted unit.
Sure. Yep.
So the act of spotting or being the observer does nothing to that unit. It can still do actions. It can still do its own game. It's just there to assist that in that one shot.
Now, the unit that is spotting has to be eligible to shoot. Is that correct?
Yes. So
sometimes there's some play there, obviously, with
like line of sight and everything
line
else.
of sight. There's advancing, whether you have assault weapon or not, stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
So the spotter's going to look at you, and the guided unit's going to shoot at you,
and shoot better.
and they're going to shoot better.
Right.
So if they shoot at that target, they're going to get +1 ballistic skill on all attacks that target that unit.
Okay.
They're going to get ignores cover if the spotter has a marker light,
Okay.
and then they're going to get some buff if that unit spotting for them is intended to be spotting for them.
Right, like tetras and stuff like that.
Tetras will make them reroll all hits.
Gotcha.
Stealth suits will first make them reroll 1s to wound, now reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Very
Big
nice.
buff to stealth suits. And so there's that jump between them. Now, after you're done spotting that unit, that spotter or that observer, it can't do that rule anymore. It's now considered the observer. But it
Gotcha.
can still shoot. It can still action.
Something can spot for it, like
No, because it's an observer now. So it's
interesting,
labeled
okay.
as an observer.
Gotcha. So
it's
it
now
can no longer be buffed by the spot.
Yeah, that rule is
Interesting.
used up for the phase.
Gotcha.
Do you ever use tokens in your match to kind of, I show the opponent at least, or at
Yeah.
least have you yourself reminded that that is already guided, there's already
Listen,
been an
he doesn't need
observer.
the tokens, but someone like me would need the
Would
tokens.
need the tokens. I
Right.
did start with it,
Yeah.
but it gets to be very time consuming and complicated
sure.
when you play 22, 21 units
Mhm.
and you have tokens everywhere.
Yeah,
We're talking
yeah.
about seeker missiles that are once per game I have tokens out there for.
Yep.
Riptides having dev wounds once per game that I have tokens out there
Mhm,
for.
mhm, mhm.
You add markers for putting down new objectives, markers for battle shocked units.
Yeah, no.
Now you add markers for who's spotting and guiding, and
and what's moving around. Yeah.
and then
That's
I've
a lot.
asked
It's a lot.
opponents have asked me to. Drones are now war gear. Have asked me to put out 74 drones on the
Good
battlefield.
Lord. Ooh,
Yeah, the
brutal.
game.
Do you
is-
have them? Just like kind of.
I do have them in my case at all times.
Yeah,
Just in
just
case.
in
Because
case.
you do not want to get to the finals of a big LVO
and someone like call you out?
and somebody call you
Oh,
out and you
geez,
not
can you
have
imagine?
those drones and somebody
Yeah.
tell you
You never
can't
know.
play
Yeah.
with those rules.
It could happen.
So yes, I have 74 painted drones in my
Jesus.
case, and they've
Oh,
never
that's
been
fine.
pulled out.
I can't wait.
Yeah, if we
Can
play
you
a
only
tournament-
bring out 36?
Hey, if everybody plays a tournament against Matt, just be on notice. He's got him.
Yeah.
You can't
You can't beat him on the drones.
They're not pulling that on me.
Not pulling it.
Okay, so that was the Kroot detachment.
That was the army
that was
rule.
the army rule, and I wanted to clarify real quick
Sorry, the rule,
that
yeah.
I've also been unclear on, because I've heard with the spotting and how that all works, that splitting fire is super bad, and why is that the case?
That's a good question. Okay, so we said you have an opponent, a unit to shoot at
Yep.
with your guided unit
Yep,
now.
yep.
Now, in the old Codex, that guided unit is considered guided. So for Kaiyun, you'll get sustain 2 on the unit no matter where you shoot.
Okay, even if you're splitting fire.
Even if you're splitting fire.
Okay,
Now, in
cool.
the new Codex, it's different. They've nerfed it.
Okay.
But in the old Codex, you're now a guided unit. You'll get sustain 2. If any attacks that don't target that spotted unit,
Mhm.
if you're shooting at a different unit or all over the place,
Right.
you're going to get -1 ballistic skill. Now, this is
Interesting.
different than -1 to hit.
Right,
So
yep.
that can stack with -1
That's
to
true.
hit.
Yep.
So your crisis suits can be going from hitting on 3s to your proper unit,
Right.
to hitting on
Fives.
5s.
Right, because
Yeah.
not only are you not getting the +1, you're getting a -1.
Yes.
Or to ballistic
And
skill,
it's
right.
ballistic skill,
Right.
which means it doesn't stack. With
Yeah, and then they
a
just
bunch of
pop
other-
smoke or
right,
whatever
there's
it
a
is.
bunch
Now
of
you're
other
hitting on
things.
sixes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a bunch
And
of other
it-
things that can give you that -1 to hit.
The other negative is that unit that you're targeting, that observed unit, against them you're going to ignore cover if your observer has marker light, and you're
Right.
going to like reroll all hits. That does not pass over to all your attacks targeting other units.
Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
Hitting
Good
on
to know.
3s, full rerolls to hit, ignoring cover.
Just
Now
kill
we're
the
hitting
thing.
on 5s with no rerolls, no ignores cover.
Yeah.
Right.
It's awful, and
Yeah.
that's a huge. Now I like that.
Yeah.
I like that I have to jump through hoops
Yeah.
to become really good. That's
To
what
get
we were
crazy
talking about at
good.
the start of
Right.
this
Sure.
podcast.
Yeah.
But it limits some models, like
Sure.
very large models with 5-6
tons
guns,
of guns, right,
Like the
yeah.
Storm Surge,
Right.
which should be a good model, but you have to split fire with something like that.
Right, which is too
And
much.
your army rule is telling you not to run that model.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow.
It's an interesting take when,
Yeah.
when you look at it.
Totally. Like, because why wouldn't you want to run a storm surge if you could?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it's
especially with the new detachments. When we talk
Right.
about them, we'll talk about how good one of them looks for the Storm Surge.
Let's jump in. What's a Storm Surge good into?
Yeah, so my favorite detachment, and it's
Your favorite?
my
Oh.
favorite, and it's
All right.
because of what we've been talking about this whole time, is Monka. And it's the one, so in my opinion, the best unit in the whole book is
Okay.
Breachers. Breachers
Yes.
are,
Seen a lot of breachers. Yeah,
they hit on
for sure.
3s, so when they're guided, they hit on 2s. They have an ability to reroll all wounds if you're on an objective, which you want to be shooting at things on objectives
course,
because this is a points game.
Yep.
And at 611 for 90 points for 10 models, 9 points a model,
Ooh.
which is unbelievable. Now, Moncaw detachment
Yeah.
tells you to run a whole load of these breacher
And
models.
so, what is the detachment rule?
The detachment rule? Absolutely. So the detachment rule is actually oddly written.
Okay.
And so we're going to talk about...
In 40K? No, never.
Yeah, never.
I don't believe it.
So we're going to talk about a big flaw with the rule and if it's actually a flaw, because this is going to be fascinating.
Okay.
So the detachment rule gives your entire army on turn 1, 2, and 3 lethal hits.
Okay.
When we're talking about breachers...
In shooting or in everything?
In ranged attacks.
Okay, got it,
Everything's
yep.
going to be ranged attacks when
Yeah,
we talk about it.
fair enough.
Melee attacks you have to roll because it's mandatory. Other than that, you don't even want to...
You're not doing it.
Yeah, you're not
Okay,
if your
gotcha,
opponent
gotcha.
lets you off the hook, don't even
Listen,
roll
I
those
figured I'd
dice.
just check. You never know.
So it gives you lethal hits, and when we're talking about rolling 30 dice per breacher unit,
Yeah.
lethal hits is
Love it.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. So it gives your entire army on the ranged attacks,
Yep.
lethal hits, and then if they're a guided unit, it gives their guns assault.
Still in just 1, 2, and 3?
Just turns 1, 2, 3,
Got it,
which
yeah.
is where most of the game is played.
Of
which
course.
is one problem we'll get into with Kayan.
Yeah.
So turns 1, 2, and 3, your entire army has lethal hits, and if they're guided, assault.
Gotcha.
Now, assault means you want to advance and shoot.
Right.
So you take a model like the Storm Surge or the Riptide, and you advance it. Then you want to guide it.
Right.
Now, to be guided, you have to be eligible to shoot.
Right.
Unfortunately, your guns don't have assault yet, so you're not
Oh,
eligible to shoot.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
So
right.
you
so
can't-
you don't have a gun that can shoot yet, so you're not eligible to shoot.
So you can't select it to be a guided unit to give their guns assault to
my
shoot.
goodness.
Oh, wow.
What a disaster.
So that means
Okay.
that you can
That is
only
weird.
run models in the Codex
That
that
have
have at
assault.
least one assault gun.
Like
we-
a shotgun, like a cultist shotgun kind of nonsense.
Yeah, so-
like
Just
just
anything with assault, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that means that every crisis suit unit, you have to put one gun drone that has assault.
Right.
So Riptides can't get a gun drone, so they cannot benefit from that assault rule. But tanks like the not Storm Surge, Skyray,
Okay.
can get assault guns on the side.
Right,
So
right.
you can give its main gun assault
Can-
through that.
Can Devilfish get a gun drone?
Yes, Devilfish
Okay.
can get a gun
Good.
drone.
Okay, so awesome.
So luckily,
So do we? And there's been no. I guess the Codex is not officially launched yet, so we haven't gotten any guidance from good old James Workshop on this yet.
yeah. So
the
that's
quiet
the
so
real
far.
question. That's what everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
Is it an intended limitation? Because they love putting limitations on Tau. We just talked about the whole army rule. You can't even split fire. So is it an intended limitation to stop you from running Riptides, Triptide in
right.
that detachment that's already very strong?
Right.
Or is it just an oversight?
Just an oversight,
Because
right. And
as I'm saying this, you're thinking through it and you're going,
makes no
oh yeah,
sense.
I didn't consider that.
and which
Not at all. I just think of everyone has assault now and everyone's coming at me.
Yeah, and that's
like when
how
I
you
read
play.
that rule. That's all I think of. I'm like,
Well,
okay, so this is
that's-
like when I see like a list like this of like what you do in Monka, I see a bunch of devilfish, a bunch of breachers, and they're
Yeah.
all coming at my face, and
Sure.
I don't know what to do. Like,
which is that's
Right?
a normal rational reading of the rule.
Yeah.
Do you fall
At
in
a
the
first glance, yeah.
for sure, without digging into it, obviously. But
Yeah.
where do you fall on the whether it's an accident or intended? Where do you think?
That's a really good question. It's
I'll ask a good question.
it's
I'm just gonna keep
hard.
it on.
So the way I want to play it right now
Yeah.
is rules as written, because
Which is the bad way.
which is the bad way.
Right,
Because if
sure.
it gets to be the good way, I'm already in a great spot.
It's a very good policy to do. I remember playing Necrons early in the Codex where there was some ambiguity as to like when reanimation protocols trigger and how many dice you're rolling for warriors and stuff like back when they were good. And it was a hotly contested thing on all the boards I'm on. And I think most level-headed people were like, we're going to play it in like the middle of the road, right? If there's like a super, super bad way and there's like a super busted good way, somewhere in the middle. This one probably is just either A or B, so it's a kind of a simpler equation.
Yes.
But you're choosing to take the weaker option.
that's a good
Yes.
analogy. Yeah,
in
that's good.
anticipation.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense.
So you play it like that, and if it gets buffed, you feel great.
Great, awesome.
Instead of when they come out with this is the way we intended it, you feel bad and you have negative thoughts about your life. No, about your army.
Why did I choose Tau?
Exactly.
I mean, are they cow or are they fish? We don't know.
But as I will say, as a person who is a professed competitive player, competitive mindset, that's a self nerf. How do you square the circle on that,
How do you
Mr.
square
Mr. Hardcore?
Mr. Hardcore. The way to do it is because if it ends up being that way,
Yeah.
I've been practicing that way. I am
Fair
a
enough.
step ahead of everybody not practicing that way.
Okay.
I have
Alright.
I have built that into my mindset. I'm
Sure.
playing it. But when you played in tournaments, we'll have a clarification before you play in a tournament. So this is all just talking
Right.
about practice games.
That's true. That's a good point. A tournament's going to make a ruling.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then you go.
Well, and you know, just like right before the LVO when they announced the Trajan and Materian rule, that was a pretty big
Yep.
one, right?
Yep.
Like, no, it ignores all modifiers. Just keep it simple.
Yep.
We're gonna ignore anything of damage. Armor Kit does not work against it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
and
Perfect.
and they did that, right? So then you go to the LVO. Now the rule is clarified. So hopefully in the next big, there was a big one at Adepticon. Okay, no, I guess it wouldn't be the new Codex, so it doesn't matter.
No.
So when's the next big one?
the
Next big tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. For like GW sponsor type thing, like big.
Yeah.
I don't know actually. Adepticon just happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my
Oh,
head.
hey viewers, if you want to just
Yeah,
put it
throw it
in
in the
there.
comments.
Yeah, please let us know.
Let us know.
Because
I
we don't
don't
know. And we'll be there.
We're familiar with like kind of our local scene and stuff like that. What we got going on. There's a big. Are you going for the teams tournament up in Edmonton? The three team.
in July you're talking
Yeah,
about.
or end of May maybe.
Trident.
May? Yeah, Trident. Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Oh.
trying to go for that.
Yeah, attaboy.
There's
With
Alberta
Dave?
Classic. Yeah. Of
Well,
course.
you're at the Alberta Classic.
Alberta Classic. Yeah, that's here in town. That's a big one. That's true.
That's
Not
another
That's the
every
biggest
single
one
event.
Calgary has.
That is the biggest one Calgary has. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And then we're getting almost all the way around to LVO again. So
Yeah, no, well, there's a team tournament in July.
That's what I was
in
gonna
Calgary.
say. There is two. You're
Yeah,
right. There's a
the
three-
one at the
three
end of
person
May
event.
is
That's right.
the one at the end of May is Trident.
Yeah, that's up in Edmonton.
And then July is the Calgary one, their first Calgary tournament.
That's
team
right.
tournament.
That's
Okay.
right. There is a
maybe
three.
that's the one I'm
three-player
playing with
tournament.
David.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But before
You're
we
probably
get
playing both with David.
I probably.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, I would.
for the viewers, we've had Dave on the show before. Dave is we had him on for the World Eaters, like kind of faction focus. He's focusing more on Grey Knights right now and doing really, really well as well. He did good at West Coast. I think he went
5-1
as well. Yeah.
all three of us.
What was
me,
your? I forgot to ask you. What was your final placement at West Coast? Do you remember?
Yeah, that
Top
so
10? No.
Oh yeah, absolutely top
Yeah,
10.
okay.
So that's actually something interesting because especially people I was talking to, people don't fully, especially me, didn't understand how those tournaments work because there's no cut to top 8. So it's Swiss rounds, and especially when you're wondering what opponent you're going to face. So I was 5-0 going into the final round.
Yeah, and David was in first, and you were like and he was 4-1 at the time,
I
right?
think he sent us a screenshot before the matches had been reported. Though.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah. And
He
so
he just sent us with first place. We're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So when you're 5-0 going into the final round,
Yeah.
you know there's going to be too many 6-0s to know if you're going to come in first.
Right. Okay.
So the second, the clause that they're using is opponent win percentage.
Right. Which
So-
we've talked about this on the show before. Whether it's a good thing, bad thing, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's hard to debate which one you should go, which metric you should
for sure.
use. So when we were going into when I found out who my opponent was, we're going into the final round. I could see that we both had the highest opponent win percentage, and whichever one of us won that match was going to win the whole
That
tournament.
would be it. Okay, wow.
So that was the match to win the tournament.
And we should get in that one later because that was against Brendan.
We will dig into it for
Was
sure.
that against Brendan?
The Sisters player.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll get to that one
We
later.
can absolutely.
We have it right here. Look at the screen,
you got it
guys.
up on the screen here.
9th.
Okay.
Ninth, okay.
Ninth. Where
So not top 8 for sure, but top 10.
Top.
What did old Dave get? Did
Dave got higher.
He
He got 6.
6.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then I think Green got 8. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the way.
Yeah,
So
Green got
that
eight.
that's how that falls back into exactly what I was talking about. So in the 6-0s, I would have been the highest opponent win percentage to be the
Right.
top of the 6-0s, but in the 5-0s, I was lower on the opponent win percentage.
Right.
So it's weird that you could be in the game to see the winner of the tournament, and the loser doesn't get second; he gets all the way down
Yeah,
to
that
9.
happened, that happened to Jake in our local tournament at Rockies. He played Adam Green. Adam needed to win the game. They were both the only 4-0s.
They
at
were
that
both the
point.
4-0s, yeah.
Right, they were the only 2 4-0s. Jake lost that game, but came
Fourth?
I wanna
Fifth?
say 5th or
Fourth?
6th.
No,
maybe
I
something
came.
like
I
that.
got 6
Did you get 6?
because I was the 4-1, but everyone like from 1 to 5 all played Adam Green.
That's right,
Including Adam himself, right?
So
So
he had the craziest, highest opponent win percentage. He
So
played all,
second-
like, the top 5.
every
So
single one.
second, third, and fourth,
That's right.
and fifth all played Adam
That's right.
Green.
That's
So then
right.
they all had the highest win percentage of
Right.
opponent's win percentage
Yeah.
because Adam went undefeated.
Right.
Right, and I never played against
I
Adam.
apologize for getting us off on a tangent.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
detachments. I just wanted to, because I couldn't remember what you had said. You came. What you said? 9th, 8th.
Oh,
9th.
I have it.
Love
Right
it. Out
here.
of 100, and you said 170
171
players. That's
players.
insanely good.
Okay, I just want a side note here, and this is for the viewers, just because I'm a Death Guard player. Fucking 3 defilers. Did you see that list?
Oh,
So
I
do you
didn't know
see
about
that
that.
red number there, the
That's
second
62.
one?
Is that you?
That was me.
Hey, that's awesome.
He's like, what defilers? Didn't even notice.
So he does know the defilers.
I killed 2 of the 3 and almost killed the third on turn 1.
Oh, Jesus.
What? Okay,
If
so
he
that
gives them up to you like
so
that,
this is
I
a
mean, Jesus.
the toughness 11,
Right.
14 wounds
I thought
with
defilers were
no. So it's kind of unique that he did that because they're kind of playing the same roles that like my predator tanks would play.
Gotcha.
Except obviously they're way more points, but they have a 5 of invul where my predator tanks don't,
Right.
and they're a little higher toughness and 14 wounds, so they can kind of
Right.
take a little bit more
a hit,
beating
right.
and also kill vehicles. And that's the idea. And also they have good melee too, so you can actually just charge them right in the center
And
and
do
hold.
Death Guard, because I know in
I've
World
never
Eaters
seen a
at
Death Guard
least-
player play a defiler
Oh,
before.
you're fine.
So
I know in
that was awesome.
In World Eaters, defilers have like just a lame rule about moving over terrain. Do they have a good rule in Death Guard? Do you know the
No,
rule?
they can just go over 4-inch terrain. That's the only
same thing,
ability.
yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
the-
it.
The
Literally,
rule they
that's
have
not it.
is I don't move 4 inches, which is
Right.
something the Death Guard can fall into. So it gives you a unique point of view for that army.
Right,
But they have a very large footprint.
Oh yeah,
So
they're big
hiding
Sparty
3
boys.
of those from a Tau army,
Clearly did
You
not
just
work.
don't.
you don't.
You don't
Clearly-
hide them.
clearly
You
did not
don't.
work.
I think maybe okay. So I don't know how he deployed or whatever, and this is just me obviously speaking way out of turn, or I wasn't even there, or
Yeah,
like maybe
yeah.
I'm just like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
angel on the top there. Just
We're
show
playing-
everything, man. Just show everything and make him choose.
Well, yeah.
I chose all of his
Defilers, yeah.
Kill those things.
Because Defiler and Mortarion. I'm sure you were salty about Mortarion. I think you just have to kill that thing.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Yeah.
we will get into that tournament a little bit. Let's get back to detachments.
Absolutely.
So Monkai is what you're going to be playing when Codex drops. You think that's your go-to?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the 2 different detachments that everybody's going to focus on at this point, not to
Monka.
talk because there's too many just to get into every
Sure.
specifics.
Yep,
We have the
of
Monka
course.
detachment, which is
Yep.
going to focus on the best Tau unit, which is the Breacher.
Right.
And they're going to be the turn 1, 2, 3, come out strong, put yourself in a commanding lead. A little bit more difficult to play because you're playing with a bunch of Breachers, which are really squishy.
Sure,
So really
right.
high skill cap,
Right.
really fun.
Yep.
You got assault weapons where you can really utilize advancing and moving around. Their stratagems fit perfectly with that type of high skill cap. We're
Yep.
adding OC to objectives.
Right.
We're adding extra scout moves to your army. And if you're utilizing those things, we're adding a huge level of power to the army. If you're not, it's a big waste.
It's a scalpel. It's precision strikes.
Exactly.
Yeah, got
And then we have the other one, which is the Retaliation Cadre,
Which is the hammer.
Which is the hammer. You are playing. I want to be within 6 inches of you.
Yes.
I want to take a full battlesuit army, and I want to just hammer you as hard as I
Right.
possibly
So,
can.
and then I've heard from some of the forums too, is like high risk, high reward. Is that the way it would play?
with Retaliation Cadre.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's going to be a good detachment, but it's going to be like what we were calling it earlier, a skill.
Like a high skill ceiling?
No, the opposite one. The Knights player.
A stat check.
A stat check.
You think
army.
that's a stat check?
I think it's a stat check army.
How so?
Because
Everyone has suits.
Yeah, because they're all good. All the suits are good. They hit hard. You have to be within 6 inches. So if you survive the onslaught of shots within 6 inches, you're going to kill the suits back.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't survive the onslaught within 6 inches, you're going to not survive the onslaught.
Gotcha. It's a stat check, but in the form of like damage output stat check. Like,
absolutely.
Can this blob I'm throwing at you right now kill basically everything in sight? Then great, I'm going to win the game, because then they can go somewhere else and do the same thing.
Absolutely.
If you leave a Questoris class knight alive in front of your little deep strikers, now you're screwed.
Yeah, and your whole army's tougher because you're playing a bunch of battlesuits. You're falling into the fixed secondaries where you're very weak to bring it down. Whereas the Monka's moving away from that.
Good point. Very good point.
Less battlesuits, really forcing your opponent to play more tactical game, which is going to be harder than just kill as much of my army as you can.
Now, do you think... Actually, that's a really good point about fixed secondaries. And obviously, Tau and Knights and those kind of armies have been preyed upon, I guess. Like, it's smart to go fixed into them, right? Cass is a consummate fixed taker. Almost always, right? I'm the opposite. I never take fixed. Well, I think I've done it like a game. Yeah. But I completely get it. Do you think between Monka and Retaliation Cadre, is one or the other more susceptible to bring it down assassination, or they're kind of the same?
No, absolutely. Retaliation Cadre, you're going to take...
That's like...
You're going to take fixed.
Always.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Against Monka, I am going to play a list that's going to make you consider if you're supposed to take fixed, and it's going to be a mistake if you take fixed.
Interesting.
And so and that's another point why we're talking about high skill ceiling on one, stat check on the other.
Gotcha.
Now they're both good. I'm not saying you're not as good of a player if you don't play this one.
No. Strengths and weaknesses.
They just have very different play styles.
For sure.
And you get to choose one.
And I was going to ask, for those who don't know, what is the detachment rule for Retaliation, specifically?
Yeah, so this one they don't know as well, because I'm not planning on playing it right away. So
the gist of it.
If you're within 12 inches, you get an extra strength to all of your ranged attacks. Okay. And if you're within 6 inches, you get an extra AP to all of your shots.
Gotcha. Right. So this was the flamers we were talking about before.
The flamers.
Right.
Yeah. And so a lot of the strats are also like 3-inch deep strike.
Of course. Everybody has to have that now.
Exactly. Right. Move, shoot, move. Right in your face, aggressive playstyle versus the Monka, which are +1 OC, like objective play, scout moving, a lot weaker models that are going to move around and really show your skill.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's scalpel versus hammer. Makes perfect sense.
And and it's really cool that Tau has those different playstyles now.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool.
I think they've done a good job so far. I don't know about what's it called, Dark Angels so much, but most of the codexes, if not all of them, have been pretty solid in giving players options to play a completely different list. Based on detachment. Yeah. Which obviously Tau does it super well. Necron Codex does it super well. Like there's like 2 really good detachments. You know, if you like your army, at least you can like, maybe your army that you like isn't your play style. And now they come with this new detachment like, oh my god, I've always wanted to kind of play an aggro style or like an infantry based style of game. And now you can do that. 100%. Because I like that Monka Breacher. Like it just is so
like
cool.
You say that now, but just wait until I put it on the table across.
I hate this whole strategy. That's what excites me the most when just looking at this codex is just having the ability to like move around with transports and then coming out and then coming back in and running away and having that versatility, which Tau's always kind of had, but it was never the same. Like it was always relying on the battlesuits. Right.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to move away from that, move away from bring it down, being an auto take for your opponent. Really make your opponent think, not I'm facing Tau, I'm taking bring it down, I'm playing the same game every time. Now, they're looking at your detachment, and they're looking at your list, and they're looking at your playstyle. And they really have to. I want to do that to my opponent. I don't. I want them to think.
Yeah. That's when they're going to make mistakes.
That's the whole.
That's
point,
it. Yeah. That's game over.
Make them think. Give them 1,000 decisions, and they'll mess up. Like you give them decisions where there's no good answer.
Did we cover all the 4 detachments?
We're going to touch on Kauyon real quick.
So the Kauyon, yeah.
And you said it.
The one we've always dealt with.
The one we're familiar with from Index, right?
Yeah.
You said it's got a little bit weaker. some of its
Yes.
better stratagems got put into Monkai. Is that right?
So yeah, the
It
stratagems
got put into Retaliation.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends
Other-
which stratagems we're talking about.
Okay.
But the stratagems were one aspect of it. The other one is, so it's a turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 army.
Right.
Which is not how the game is
Awkward.
played.
Very
the game is
awkward.
played in turn 1, 2, 3. And
Yes.
so your army is turning on when you only have half of it left on the battlefield, which doesn't feel great.
I was going to say in Index Hammer that you've been playing so far with your Tau, that has to have felt awkward.
It
Right.
does.
I mean, clearly, you've got some success with it, so you've figured out the awkwardness. And what has been the key to making that detachment work so far? You think?
I've accepted that I only get half my army for my roll. But detachment roll.
Just like, is it just hide your army for 2 turns? Like, is that what it is? Or
It's very matchup specific.
Sure, of
and
course.
it's very complicated.
right.
When you use buffs like the Riptides once per turn, once per game, or Seeker Missiles once per turn, Dev Wounds, Seeker Missiles on your tanks, if you wait until turn 3 to fire those, because that's when it could turn into a huge amount of shots,
Right,
or
right,
if you
right.
fire them right away. At the start, I was saving them all, and I was losing half of the shots completely because I was waiting until the shots became the strongest they could be.
Right.
And so it does create a really hard balancing act in your army.
For sure.
That's really complicated.
Because I think every army has to have that balancing act in the beginning, in the first 3 turns. It's like you want to reveal things and then trade up, right? Like if they are going to reveal something, you want to trade into that and trade up. You have this whole game, you have that same game, but on steroids, because you want to trade, but if you don't trade, you're better in the late game, but you have to trade a bit here and there in the first 2 turns. You can't just not play the game.
Yeah, so a
Right.
lot of games you would give them small little pieces.
Right.
You'd find out what you need to kill your opponent in turn 3.
Right.
And you'd use your other stuff to shield it, to screen it. You'd give
Yeah.
them little cookie crumbs.
Right.
And hopefully they were full enough that they didn't come after your big head until turn 3, and then you could come out swinging your hammer.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And Kauyon I would assume going to have that same awkwardness going forward after Codex.
Yes,
Right.
and so the big nerf that we originally hinted at that we didn't talk about is, so at the start I talked about the army rule where you're the guided unit.
Right.
If you offshoot, you get the -1 ballistic skill, but no matter what, you're the guided unit, you have sustain 2.
Right.
Now they've changed it. You only get that sustain 2 if you're targeting that enemy unit you're supposed to target. So when you split fire now, you're also losing the sustain 2.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no. Don't split fire.
Yeah.
Just don't
That
do
is
it.
what they're telling you.
Yeah,
They're saying
yeah.
don't
It's
Stop
basically
it.
hey.
fire.
Hmm.
And so,
And that, like you mentioned, I can't remember which model you specifically said, but that's going to dictate a lot of what units you're going to bring in. Kauyon,
absolutely.
if you play it at all.
The Storm Surge was the one I brought in
Storm
where
Surge,
you
thank
have
Right.
46 shots
Right.
that need to target infantry, but then you have 2 massive strength 28 or
Right.
whatever those shots are.
So those are not going to be played in Kauyon, maybe ever.
I don't think they should ever see the table in Kauyon.
Right.
If you're going to play it, you're going to play it in Monka.
Right.
Well, depending on how the assault rule works.
Right,
But you're
right, of
going to
course.
play it in Monka, where you have assault on its weapons, so now you're giving it advancing and shooting, and lethal hits, where your 46 shots are all lethal.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, if it's still good enough to
And on
play,
Tetra, you just re-roll those lethals.
you just reroll all of
Oh,
those.
I love it.
And so
Just
this
dish away.
it puts out about
Yeah.
42
Love it.
shots. But once again, Tau don't like to split fire, so that model is still in an awkward place in that army.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
But having that ability to assault too, I think you get a line of sight on things that they maybe wanted to hide. So if they slightly misdeploy, then
Yeah.
but my guy can move. What's the movement on a
Storm Surge.
8 inches, and
Okay.
then
It's
the
a fast
detachment rules gives you an auto 6 advance.
Love it.
Because so you got a 14-inch range to hopefully draw a line of sight somewhere.
Well, you're also Titanic, so you touch the corner of a ruin, and now you see through the ruin.
Right.
So
Oh,
quite a
interesting.
bit
Towering.
towering.
Right.
Towering. with
Towering.
Titanic,
Yeah,
Towers,
Titanic
it's
was
two,
ninth.
Two
Yeah,
T
yeah,
words that
yeah.
are kind of the same thing.
Two T's.
Two
Two T's. Yeah, that's true, right? So then you have now that 14-inch move to hit a rune to actually open it up even more.
Open up the entire battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
makes
having 42 lethal shots with rerolls.
Is scary.
Yeah, spicy.
Yeah.
But once
Spicy.
again, it's still limited by you want to split fire with a model like that.
Right.
So if it'll be played, they also have a stratagem in the Monka -1 damage. which when you put
nice.
that on a 20 wound model is a scary.
Is it -1 damage on vehicles, I assume?
It's -1 damage from ranged attacks, and it's on anything.
Oh, on anything. Great. Yeah. Lots of versatility. Great strat.
Yeah, so I'm going to be putting that on my Tetras, and you're not going to be a happy person.
They're weirdly tough little
that's-
things, right? Like
T7, 7 wounds, right?
Yep, T7, 7 wounds each, so 14 wounds to the unit.
Yeah.
And
-1
now
damage on
-1
them?
damage
Gross.
when you're actually trying to
That's
kill the
actually
unit.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, I guess you just target one with the other one, then just go to the rest if you can.
Yeah, 100%. That is a legit
But
strat.
you still have one Tetra out. Yeah.
Yeah, so Tetras are, you either fully kill them or you don't. You leave one with 1 wound, and he's still doing the same job
he's
as
doing
2 with
fine.
full wounds.
That's right.
So it's almost always a bait to kill them, and now I'm giving them -1 damage, which means you're not killing them.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind if you're facing a Tau army. They're
For
going to
sure.
have -1 damage.
For sure.
Be careful if you're trying to kill
Yeah.
them.
So just to round out the detachments, we cannot forget about the fan favorite. Let's say the Kroot.
The Kroot detachment.
The Kroot. Is it dreams or is it memes?
The detachment rules itself are very good. I haven't memorized all of these because I'm not going to play
Of
at the
course
start.
not. Yeah.
It's a 6-up invuln and a 5-up invuln in ranged attacks.
Okay.
I think that's the only benefit.
Yeah,
There
that
might
sounds
be
about right.
some extra hit benefits, which is all of their stratagems. The detachment itself is strong, and
They've
then
got like a lone op strat in there.
Yep.
Art of War did a really interesting video about the best detachments in the game, like aside from what army and what models they can take, like what detachment rules are the best. And they actually had the Kroot detachment on there because they have some insanely good rules, like you said, the invulns in shooting and fighting, and lone op strats and movement strats. They have tons of stuff. The problem is you're putting on-
Reanimating a whole 20 man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The problem is you're putting on Kroot bodies. So
yes, you love everything about it until you start reading the data sheets, and then you notice that the strongest attack is, well, there's some that break this rule, but most of the attacks are 401 or 411.
Right.
And I don't care what rules you give to that, you are not making it able to kill anything.
yeah, it is what it is. It's so we're not going to see Kroot in competitive play, you don't think?
Not with the current
Offerings. Yeah. Which we're not going to. I don't suspect we'll see many offerings post Codex.
I would be shocked if they don't eventually do something to make the army at least usable, because there's a lot of
Interesting.
Kroot fans out there.
There's tons, and this is kind of the fan service to them. This is their little crumbs. Here's your Kroot thing.
Here's your Kroot.
Yeah. I mean, if you have some faith in them, then fair enough. I'd have no faith in James. He's a real SOB.
I hope they
James.
do. I hope they push it.
Of course, I
think
hope
it's really
they do.
cool.
It'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
But I have I had the same thing happen with Necrons, and I love my Destroyer cult and stuff, and they're just like, yeah, here's your Destroyer thing. It's trash.
What do you know about
Have
Destroyer
fun.
cults?
I know lots about Destroyer cults.
Okay,
I've
that's
been
good.
Rocking them. But we appreciate the breakdown on the detachments, the new Codex. We do definitely want to dig into some of your
that was awesome.
tournament
That was
play.
really, really in depth. Yeah, I think the viewers are gonna love that.
Perfect.
No, honestly, I hope you guys do. I do.
Yeah, you better like
Where's my
it.
camera?
Hey,
Oh, there.
Where's our
Yeah.
camera? You
I'm
tell
actually
him-
here,
You
yeah.
tell him first, and then I'll tell him.
Yeah.
Hold on, my camera.
Your camera's here.
I know, but you're not on me.
Oh.
Listen here. You better like this content. You better like this content.
Yeah. No.
This is good content.
So why don't we dive? So you went the LVO and you went 5-1. You only have to briefly talk about this, but we had Dave on here and he went 4-2. So you're
4
clearly
and 2.
way better than him. So
That's exactly what that means.
Yeah,
It is a direct
Infinitely,
correlation.
infinitely better than Dave.
Okay, so I mean, now that we had him on here, now that we have you on here, what a schnub. So,
So what does that mean for the next podcast?
I don't know.
Going to be-
Well, I don't know what it
Everyone
means.
has
Listen,
advice.
we already had him on. He's old news. He's washed up. You're new and sexy. He's the old and busted. All right, that's how it works.
With my new Codex, I do feel
With your fancy new Codex, there you go.
Absolutely.
So that's the
Yeah.
new and sexy.
So it was fun. The LVO was fun.
LVO was a blast. As I said, well, I don't think I've talked about this, but I played Magic as a kid, or as an adult, really. Now I am getting old. I played
happens.
Magic as an adult, and I never went to Vegas. I never went to any of the large tournaments. So
Right.
now that I'm playing Warhammer and I'm playing it competitively, I am going to these large events, and
Right.
so
that's the gotta happen. That's the goal.
that is the
Got it.
life that I want to lead.
Oh, hell yes, good life.
And so I went to LVO, and I did not have high hopes for myself because I am many years behind a lot of the players in this
Sure.
game.
There you go.
But I come at this game from a very analytical, competitive mindset.
Sure.
And so I studied the terrain, I studied the book, I tried to figure out what would what I could bring that other people weren't looking at.
Right.
And I saw that it was player place terrain. And one of the weaker Tau units, because of Games Workshop terrain, are the broadsides. They only move 5 inches.
Okay.
It's very hard to get line of sight.
Yep.
And you go to LVO with player place terrain, and those units become very strong.
Just very strong.
Throw all that terrain out
that
of
one
the way.
opponent that just like, I'm going to leave this lane right here for you. Like, okay.
So
Yeah.
I faced a World Eaters player, and this was from David that suggested this. And I put all of the terrain backwards on the back 4 inches from the back of my base.
What do you mean by backwards?
So normally you'd put a terrain with the opening facing your army, so you can hide in that nook.
Yep.
I flipped it around backwards and put it as far towards the back along the entire back line of the board edge, and left the entire middle of my board open.
Right.
Against a World Eaters player. So to get to me, he had to cross
No Man's Land.
No Man's Land. And
No Man's Land is a mechanism in this game, but like actual No Man's Land.
Actual No Man's. The objectives were in
Oh my
the
God.
open.
Yeah.
And I
It's
put
the best thing
4
ever. So good.
broadsides and 12 crisis suits standing in a line. And I just told him,
Just
if you
gun 'em
can't
down.
get to me in one turn, which you can't,
Yeah.
you are
'cause
eating
you
this
deploy-
line of fire.
Yeah, you deploy
And
smart.
did you go first or second?
I don't remember if
It doesn't even matter.
second,
If
but
you
I
just-
don't.
Oh, no. I mean, if you go first, you get 3 shooting phases.
That's true. That's true.
And my
That's true.
opponent looked at me and he asked, "Is this legal? Are you allowed to do this?"
Of course.
Yeah.
I said, yes.
I did. I did
That's a great suggestion.
I did a
That's
similar
so
thing
cool.
when we played up in Edmonton. It was like an LVO can't go type event, so they were copying all the LVO rules to a certain degree.
No.
I think that was the local one.
Oh.
But then there was one up there. But anyway, same idea. So they tried to do all the same rules they did player place terrain. And I was playing my knights, same exact thing. And when I played against an orc player, just move all the terrain out of the way. I got first turn, and there's so many orcs or so many trucks that just can't hide everything, like you were saying before. You just can't quite hide everything, so just gun them down. It feels good.
It's a beautiful.
It feels really good.
It's a beautiful life.
So the World Eaters guy didn't do so good into you. Any other highlights from LVO?
My final match, the one that took me out of the top 16, the Shadow Round, was against an incredibly good Space Marines player playing Vanguard.
Ooh, yeah,
and
okay.
he played it extremely well. And both of us were down to the last minutes of the clock, really raking every point we could out of the game. And the final end of the game was just coming down to what secondaries are you drawing, how perfectly did you place every model,
right.
how much leverage did you get in this game, and it was a very good game. And he beat me, and I was happy to lose that game.
Oh, interesting.
Because that was a
Did
good
you feel
game.
like you learned a lot from that one?
I learn a lot from every single game I play.
Sure.
Because I don't look
Ooh,
at
good answer. Good
did
answer.
I roll well?
Yeah.
Did the dice just not
Sure.
work in my favor? I don't use that metric. I look at how did I play? Where did I make mistakes?
Yeah.
I cost myself every game I play.
Sure.
Not the dice. The dice might make it harder for me to play it.
Yeah.
But it's my decisions.
It's a good mindset, because I think
I like that.
Like even myself, I fall into the trap of being like, oh well, the dice just didn't go my way, and then you don't learn anything from that. Like literally, you're like, the dice didn't go my way, but I played fine.
Yeah, like I missed every charge, or,
Right,
or
right. Yeah,
my
I missed
melters
that
were
big
only
charge.
hitting ones, and
Exactly.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And
I think it's a very good mindset to have. Is like, there's obviously, you can always improve. There's obviously room for improvement. If you lost the game as a reason, the dice are the dice. Over a game, they probably average out. Of course, you want to have better dice in the first 2 or 3 turns, but that's not the way it goes, right? So it's very, very good analysis.
And I think if you can, keep going with that mindset and keep that in your head, I think you'll just become a better sportsman, and then people will generally want to play you more because, like, well, that's the way the dice rolls. It is what it is, and then you're kind of not, for lack of a better word, spazzing out on like, oh, the fact that the dice missed or whatever it was. Like you're accepting the reality, and then you're maybe I shouldn't have been in this situation, or maybe I should have. This is not a stab at you, but maybe I should have been within 3 inches to not fail a charge.
Oh, dude.
I know. But like,
hurts deep.
But
100%
but that's what it is,
Yeah,
right?
100%,
So,
yeah.
and that creates, I think, a better sportsman and an overall better game and an overall better experience at a tournament.
Well, another thing it does too. Sorry, guest. I'll let you get to talk at some point. Another thing it does too is when you, as a player, say, "Oh, well, I lost because of the dice." It kind of takes credit away from your opponent. It's saying you didn't actually play that good. That's just the dice that got it.
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah.
Right? It's a kind of, it's not, nobody intends it that way. Nobody that we play with at least intends it that way. But it is kind of a fuck you because it's like the opponent also played a good game and you just got beat. That is a reasonable result from a game. It doesn't have to be the dice. It could be that you got beat that day.
Yeah, like you don't know the research that they put into it. You don't know what the amount of time they put in. Like,
100%.
Actually, I know exactly how to play against Tau. It's the only one I ever want to see. I'm going to go against 5 fucking Tau armies in the entire tournament because I know I can beat them.
Right. But back to what you said, Matt, is like that. You on any given day you can get beat, and you need to learn why you got beat.
Yes.
Right.
Using each game. These games are 3 hours long.
Yeah, they're huge.
We all have families and lives. Using each and every game you play to improve the next game is what you need to do to continuously do well and do better.
Yeah.
And there's always a better you can do.
Of course.
I love that. That's awesome.
So don't just throw away games. Use those games. Don't look at the dice rolls. Look at the micro decisions you make because there's thousands of them. And find out which ones of those cost you that game.
Yeah.
Or you built your army wrong.
Yeah.
I've seen many people that cannot do many secondaries on turn 1.
Yeah.
And they say, well, that secondaries were built badly.
No,
your army has something that can do that.
That's a very good point. Yeah, list building. A lot of people, and I'm actually guilty of this. I just bring big stompy stuff and just who cares about secondaries, objectives, and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people lose the game just in army list building. And that's a very good point.
Like an Imperium player. Are you running the Call Assassin? Like, are you running your Assassin? Are you able to score?
If you play,
right?
I think I can confidently say, if you play Imperial Knights and you don't play a Calidus, you've already fucked up. You probably lost the game already.
Calidus? I always call it Calexis.
Well, there's a Calexis, there's a Calexis Assassin, there's a Calidus Assassin, there's a Caladius Grab Tank. Like, there's a million stupid names.
I always just go to the other one. Anyways,
we talk about 32 armies in the game. How many different armies are there?
Something like that.
And then we talk about hundreds of data sheets.
And then there's like 4 different kinds of there's Necron warriors, there's Tyranid warriors,
You're running out of naming.
Which
got to be creative.
So we briefly talked about it already. We mentioned at the beginning of the show. We also mentioned it at just getting myself on here. And we also mentioned it at sometime in the middle of the show. But you did go 5-1 at West Coast, which is this massive tournament, 171 players. 171 players, biggest tournament in Canada, in Vancouver there, just this past weekend, and you went 5-1. And I think you were almost going first, and it was the last round. You ended up losing the last round. But hey, why don't we just go kind of dive a little bit more into your experience at the tournament and maybe break down a little bit of the matchups if we have time here, and if you don't mind.
And I'd be curious to know your list. I think Tau players out there want to know what you're running as well.
All right, guys, this is the secret sauce right here.
Here's how you get them.
Perfect. So now that I tell you all of this important stuff, the Codex is coming on, and it's all completely
That's
changing.
true. Yeah, you can release all these secrets. That's fine.
Yeah, so I should be telling you about the list I plan on playing. But so the list I played. Yeah. So what I wanted to bring was a balanced list, and I wanted to bring more of a killy list than what I normally play, instead of the MSU style where I kind of just get beat down but still beat you on points.
Right.
I wanted to bring a bit of a stronger killy list, and that's because the Riptides got buffed, and I really like the Riptides right now.
Gotcha.
So I was playing Triptide, triple Riptide.
Yep.
I was playing triple Breacher in Fish. I was playing 1 unit of broadsides, not 2, because it's not player place drain, and I can't do shenanigans like that.
Right.
Yep.
2 solo commanders going in deep strike. They kind of got their points reduced, so I knew those would be some really good point scoring, backline, aggressive. Really make my opponent not want to face Tau ever again in their lives.
Right.
And then I played Crisis Suits, but with plasma guns, which is more of a long distance jump around and shoot unit.
Right.
Dark Strider, which is just a 12-inch no deep strike bubble.
So good.
Pathfinders, which is my turn 1. I can score everything in the back of your deployment zone. They have a scout move, 7-inch scout move. They have infiltrator. I can put them 2 inches from your deployment line.
Wow.
And advance them. They have assault guns from the gun drones. So I can.
Is this a new piece that you added?
I've always played Pathfinders. Because I like their playstyle, but usually you put them with the Dark Strider in the back of your board and really screen it out.
Right.
And now I was more of a killy, aggressive.
I didn't know they had infiltrate and scout.
Yeah, so the drones they can take. One of the drones is a recon drone. It gives you infiltrate.
Gotcha.
And then they have a 7-inch scout move built in.
That's very cool.
And so they can give you those turn 1.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah, and I use that.
Turn 1
behind enemy lines and deploy.
Whatever.
Deploy, that one Pathfinder team.
Yeah, that's
and
huge.
they don't want to go and try and kill it. They have to come out into the open to kill it anyway.
Right.
You don't want to be killing Pathfinders in a Tau army. You want to be killing.
Of course. That's dope. That's super cool. Sorry, go ahead.
And then the last was 2x2 Tetras.
Of
for the
course.
full reroll
MVPs.
to hit.
Can't go wrong with Tetras.
Yeah.
Notably, all of the, maybe all, 90% of Tau I've seen are playing ghost kills. No ghost kills, eh?
Oh, good point. Good
So
point.
ghost kills are good. They're lone op, and that makes them better against shooting armies.
Yeah.
But they're weaker against melee armies.
Sure, of course.
And
Everything in Tau Codex
Did
is
they
weaker.
infiltrate as well?
No, they're low. I don't think so.
That's a good. I haven't played them in so long.
I think they
they
do.
do have infiltrate.
I think
Do
they
they?
do. Yeah.
I've
not
never
that you
seen
want
them
them.
infiltrate.
And they have
but-
minus one to hit on something.
They have
Maybe.
stealth.
Oh, there's okay.
And then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have two stealth
and-
drones.
Stealth and lone op?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a weird combo, but yeah.
They're very good against shooting armies, but then you face armies like World Eaters and Orks.
They don't
These
care about
armies that are right in your face, and they don't care.
Right, that's
and
true.
that's when you want the Riptide, especially when the Riptide costs less.
So that's a read on the current meta. And
Yes.
do you think the current meta is shifting a little bit more melee, like as it stands right now?
It's a good question, but it's not that
I'm
it
full
was
of those.
shifting more. It's not that it was shifting more to the melee. It's that Tau's weakness is a huge get in your face because we don't turn on until turn 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which means I need to hold you back until turn 3.
Fair enough.
Which is where
They have the control deck, right?
Yeah.
Aggro
right,
just kills
right,
them.
for sure. Yeah. So not a commentary on the meta necessarily, but a commentary on where Tau is right now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Makes
then
sense, yeah.
the Riptides went down in points, which made them a lot more. They were already viable at 180. Now
Right.
they're down to 165, and they become
Amazing.
very strong.
Nice.
So I'm playing 3 of them, and if you're going to give me a strong unit, I'm going to play as many as you're going to let me play.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I run 3
Did they come up with the new points for Tau? I maybe I missed something.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, not really.
Yeah, so
Right.
with other armies, what they've been doing, have a history of doing, is they use the old points, and then on the models that didn't exist, they'll use the points in the Codex. So the
Yes,
3 new
right.
crisis suits will keep those points.
Right.
Now, if they'll continue to do that for Tau, we don't know. But that is what we expect, or at least close to what we expect to see.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because the book points are, same thing happened with Necron Codex. The book points are drastically out of date. They printed these books months ago, and there's been a data slate since then, and blah blah blah. So
These
we'll
are
see how it looks.
150-page books.
Do you think Riptides are going to go up?
I think they should.
Clearly,
Let's change the verbiage there.
good
yeah.
question.
Yeah,
Good
that's
question, Cass.
I do think that the Tau Codex right now, from my read-throughs, is way stronger than Tau is right now, and I think Tau is very strong.
Sure.
So I think they're going to be very scary if points don't go up on something. Having said that, I'm a Tau player, and I'm closing my eyes because I don't want to see points go
Yeah,
up.
you just want to keep it the way it is.
I
This is
like
good.
I like
This
the
is good.
life I live.
Yeah, we're gonna see. I think.
it's good.
Well, we'll probably see Tau nerfs changes, whatever, when we see Necron nerfs changes, whatever the next data slate is. So
June? I think it's in June.
something like that. I can't remember when it's scheduled, but
They do it. Yeah, I think they
They'll whack
do.
us
I think
eventually.
they do it either biannually or quarterly.
I think it's quarterly.
Yeah, but sometimes I think they skip a quarter, just because
remember
like
how it
we
works.
don't know yet, or like there's a new codex
Yeah, that's
involved,
right, that's
so
right.
we don't know how it's going to shake at the meta, so they might not
Yeah, it might
do
not
the data
happen.
upslate or the data
What are
slate.
we in?
but-
We're in April now, just barely. May 2 months of a codex is probably enough to get a good handle
so.
on it.
So the guy put the lion in front of me.
Yes.
The lion costs 350 points.
Yeah, he's pricey.
The lion is a beautiful model that
Got it.
cannot
It's fixed.
see.
It's fixed.
He's the best model that it won the award, right, for the best model period.
Absolutely.
Nope, Angron came second, which
wow.
makes no sense, but yeah.
And so when you put that against a Tau player, you're in a lot of trouble.
But doesn't he have? I don't know.
He has lone op.
I don't know. I was gonna say Space Marines. I don't know Space Marine jank, but he has lone op when he's within.
He has lone up if he's within 3 inches of another unit.
and he didn't do
So
it.
you better hope that that unit survives, because once that unit dies, he doesn't have lone up
spicy,
anymore.
Spicy, kill that unit. All of a sudden, you've got a lion
It's
just
a Tau
sitting there.
army. Yep.
Love it. Yep.
And so when you play expensive models like that, and you want to put them on objectives, when you put them
Sure.
on objectives, creatures get full rerolls to wound.
Right.
You're just falling into exactly what Tau wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So not a hard game is what you're saying.
Yeah, you also don't
No,
have...
no discredit to who you played. Obviously, there's gonna be easy games. There's gonna be hard games. Not a hard game.
That's one of those games where the opponent's list put them in a spot
Sure.
where it's an uphill battle.
Fair.
And if they don't
Very fair.
really push through those, they're just not going to beat you.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And so that was a 100-point game because I built my list to beat stat checks like that. Round 2 was Death Guard. That was actually Death Guard. And
Yeah, this is the real round two.
Yeah.
and Death Guard are good, but Death Guard are slow.
Yes.
And if you can move out of their way and keep some distance between you and them, it's just a dance. You want to dance away from them.
Yeah.
You want to stay out of their range. You want to stay out of their contagion zone. Or they play 3 defilers and you just kill them all on turn 1.
Yeah, obviously an interesting
Right.
list. He obviously did really well in the tournament, and I'm running 3 defilers is crazy to me, but I do understand what he was trying to do. He was just going for vehicle heavy list because everyone's going MSU style
Right.
with Plague Marines.
Right.
And most of them, most of the really competitive lists are running 20 to 30 Plague Marines.
Wow.
With a bunch of rhinos and doing rhino launches at people.
Yep.
I understand where he went with it. If everything's going to kind of beat the MSU style, so similar to even your list where you wanted to build it to beat MSU style, just go the other way, right? And obviously in this case, it didn't really pan out for him, but for the rest of his tournament, it did.
Yeah, it's a good list. It's not that it's not a good list. It's, as we were talking, a stat check list.
Yeah.
Where if you can bring the stuff, you can beat it. And I
Right.
did bring the stuff, and I did beat it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean everybody did. And so...
But why would this list in particular be a stat check considering it's all the vehicles?
Because there's such high toughness. If you don't bring enough high strength weapons, if you don't bring enough long range shooting,
Right.
if you don't bring enough to deal with that high toughness, those triple Catan, those triple defiler lists,
I gotcha.
You just don't have enough to take it off.
Right. And it just came to this point where okay, well, I actually can take all this and I can, deal with MSU in a way.
Absolutely. So if he puts 3 defilers on the line, and he says, if you don't kill all 3 of these, they're going to be in your face next turn. You have to kill all 3. That's a stat check.
Yeah.
So I killed 2.5 of them, and I said, is that good enough? And he said, yes.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, that's a really cool list, though. Just because as a fellow Death Guard player, I just I really like that list.
Text in there, of course.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Some different stuff.
Yeah. But good job, by the way.
Excellent work.
That was a good give.
Yeah. Round 3.
Round 3 was Eldar. And
Ooh.
yeah, Eldar,
The boogeyman of old.
the boogeyman of old.
But not so scary anymore.
Yeah, of old is the key for
Of
that
old
one.
is the
Of
key.
old is the key. So this guy was smart. There's 3 objectives in the midboard. He put 2 D cannons perfectly, so each D cannon could see the side objective completely,
'Kay.
and both could see the middle objective.
Nice, 'kay.
And he said, if you put anything on those objectives, I'm going to shoot it. And
Got
I
it.
said, I brought 3 Riptides for this purpose. And so I put a Riptide on each objective, and he sat there shooting at them for 3 turns.
Oh, man.
While my Tau army ran rampant.
Wow.
And since they're only 165 points of Riptide, and it took them 3 full turns to kill all 3,
Yeah, you're good to go.
my
you're
breachers
fine.
and the rest of my army had a fun day.
How in this particular list or in this matchup, how efficient is Overwatch?
Overwatch is a strat that I started using way too much, and I stopped using it as much, and as I've been using it less, my army's been getting better.
Oh man, I feel that so acutely. I love my Overwatch, and I do it way too much.
Overwatch is a tool I use as don't do this or I will Overwatch you. But I never want to use it because then you can do all of those don't do this but I'll Overwatch you.
The threat of Overwatch
The
is better
threat-
than actually Overwatching.
Absolutely. The threat of
sure,
Overwatch
sure.
is what you want. Most
yeah.
of these matchups, I did not Overwatch once. During this entire tournament, I think I used Overwatch once. I
Really?
don't, yeah. Out of 5 rounds and
That's
6.
good. That's-
And
Sorry, 6
no, I'm
rounds.
assuming
Sorry.
you're gonna use it with Crest Suit Sustained 2s.
Yeah, so when you are using it, you almost always have to use it
Yeah.
when you have it's sustained one because you're not guided.
Right.
But you always have
Right.
to use it when you don't have to, but you're always going to use it when you're doing that. But no, most of the time it was I can Overwatch you. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
And most of the time the answer is no, and so I would leave the Overwatch as a potential threat that never had to be used. And
And if you don't mind, real quick, with the Retaliation Cadre with their flamers overwatching, will they get all their buffs? I don't know how the buffs stack and when they occur, like what phase they occur. Will
They'll
you
get their
get
extra AP
will
and
you get
strength.
an Overwatch?
Depending
yes.
on where they are.
Yeah, so it depends on where you are. If you won't be guided during the Overwatch.
Right.
Oh, no, sorry to interrupt, but you are a vehicle, so you can actually end the Overwatch where they end. Because you're a vehicle, you can shoot in combat.
Yes, so they made a clarification to that. You used to be able to. Now, Big Guns Never Tire, which is the ability that lets you shoot in and out of combat with vehicles, is not usable it's only usable in
Right.
your shooting phase,
Yes.
not in the Overwatch
So
phase.
you need a
that's right.
pistol.
So
You need a pistol flamer? I guess.
Yeah.
Which does exist.
You would be
Death
firing
Guard have
over
pistol
the
flamers?
pistol in Overwatch. So Overwatch works like a normal army. You can't Overwatch out of combat.
Right, okay. Gotcha.
It was
Gotcha.
a great rule, and I did use it a lot when it did have that.
Yeah,
But now that it
because
has
if they're charging your Christ suits out of line of sight, then you're like, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're going to be in line of
Okay.
sight at one point when you charge me.
Yeah.
I get you.
Sorry for the
Yeah,
tangent,
no,
but
absolutely.
it just occurred to me.
There's actually been on our channel too. There's a lot of people asking about those questions.
Yeah.
It's actually been going back and forth quite a bit. So thank you.
Happy to
And
answer those questions.
it's a good clarification because I think the ruling, like you said, was Big Guns Never Tire specifies when you select a unit in your shooting phase, or something to that effect, right?
Yes.
When you select a monster or vehicle in your shooting phase, so it can't work out of phase. That's how I remember it, at least.
Which is
that sound
where
right? Which is where
Overwatch is
Overwatch
at.
happens, obviously.
They act like normal models.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just
No,
I was thinking
absolutely.
Overwatching, and like Monka's got cool flamers now and stuff like that, or sorry, Retaliation has cool flamers now. But please continue. Eldar, you smashed him. You what happened with Eldar?
They were running the Avatar, another 350-ish
Yep.
point model.
Yep.
Once again, it's like the Lion. It's a great model, but I'm not going to get stat checked. I'm going to kill it. Breachers against toughness 11 are extremely good because we wound on 5s, not on 6s. Mortarian's toughness 12,
Right.
Breachers not very good.
Right.
Avatar's toughness 11,
That
Breachers
one-
are
That one little pip.
that one little tip.
Well, 4 rerolls a wound, like
Four
Yeah,
rerolls
on fives
fives.
versus sixes, it's a whole different game. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
and now lethal hits, and oh gosh.
Yeah, you're loving life.
Yeah, I am loving life. So that was Eldar. Eldar was good, but let his D-cannon shoot at my Riptides all game.
Right, who cares, yeah.
Ran around the board, killed
That's smart.
killed the Avatar right away, and that's most of his list already gone.
Right.
My army ran rampant, and I think the game was over at the end of turn 3.
Ooh,
He had
Jesus.
one model left on turn 3.
Yikes.
And he'd killed my 3 Riptides.
And is
that's
that? Do you think? Again, no disparaging comments to your opponent or anything. Was that a list building error, a tactical error, just the way it was always going to go? What do you think? Because I always think when like a game ends that quick, like the end of 3, it's either the dice went crazy in your favor so fast, which does happen, or there was just a fundamental flaw. What do you think? Where was that?
It's an army that loses to my army.
The matchup, which is bad.
Exactly.
Super bad. Yeah. fair enough.
It's
Yeah.
an army where the list I have built is going to beat that army.
Gotcha.
And he'd have to play it very specifically to overcome those
To
weaknesses.
try to even have a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't.
Yeah. Fair enough. Makes perfect sense.
To be honest.
No, it's brutally honest, but it's the truth.
Absolutely.
I like it.
you're and then round 4 Orks. It seems like a really close game. Holy.
It was a very close game. Orcs, as I said, Tau turn on turn 3. And if you have no models left, none of your models turn on turn 3. And so Orcs
Right.
are very good at punishing that. They get up as
course.
close to you as possible, they wah, and they jump in your face. And that is when it's a real slog. You have to screen out all of your strong stuff with your breachers. You have to position everything perfectly.
Right.
You have to use the rules of the game to keep your important units alive.
Right.
And it's very, very difficult.
And this is not player-placed terrain.
No.
We're playing on GW terrain, so you
Where-
don't have the benefit of just throwing all that terrain out of the way and just blasting them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, tough matchup for sure.
So it was a very hard game, and that is where I used the Overwatch to almost win an entire turn to myself and get
Sure.
a huge advantage.
Sure.
And it was a tough game. It's a very hard fight, but I did pull through on that one.
Yeah, you did.
Good,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
looking at
Good job.
the score. There was like a 7-point game, 8-point game,
65 to 59.
6-point game.
6-point game.
Wow.
That
That's close. That could
also
go either
only
way.
had 4 objectives on the whole map. So all
Yeah,
of
so what was the mission? Do you remember?
I don't remember what
4
the mission is
objectives on the
called.
whole map.
Yes, 2 in no man's land.
Vital ground. Right,
it is
where
Vital
you
Ground.
lose the middle one, and then
Yeah.
it's 2 and 5 and whatever
2,
the points.
5,
2, 5, and 6
Yeah.
for opponents. Yeah,
for your
right.
opponents.
Yep, gotcha.
And so everything is funneled into smaller areas of the
Of course,
battlefield.
which the orcs love.
Which the orcs
They're
love.
stoked. Yeah,
It's a very hard fight.
yeah,
And so
that makes sense.
I had, of course, I had luck. Any 6-round tournament, you're going to have luck that is involved. But yeah, I pulled through. I
Love
really
it.
played my hardest in that match, and it paid off.
Yeah, you got to put yourself in a position to get lucky. That's all you
Yes.
can do, and then hope the dice come your way, and you take the window.
Yeah, I had to really play solid. Absolutely every move had to be intentional.
Love it,
Had to keep threat ranges in mind.
love it.
And they have a strat which is -1 to wound, which
Yeah,
is
art is nails.
and it's very difficult against my army. -1 to wound really hurts, especially on like strength 6 breachers. We're now wounding on 6s. So mind games with that, that's like their Overwatch threat.
That's true.
And
100%.
so mind games with that was a big the turns where I outplayed him and forced him to use it on the wrong target.
Nice.
That's like Custodes, where they can use their -1 damage on the wrong target. Using that on the wrong target is where you can really show your skill and
That's a good
take
point.
a win where you shouldn't have
That's
had.
actually a very good point. That's a very good point that I think I don't factor into my game enough, is baiting out those key moments, right? Because like when the Custodes Wardens pop there, 4 up, feel no pain, -1 damage, I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I gotta chew through this now. Whereas more experienced, better player than me, like you, would set yourself up where you actually have 2 good options. And if as soon as he pops all the stuff on that, all right, we're going over here.
Yes, you
That's the way to do it, right?
You use a target that you think that poses a large threat,
right?
That you think your opponent is going to perceive as that,
right? Right.
But that's not your intention. Your intention is to force that.
Ooh, the bait and switch.
It's the bait and switch.
Love a good bait and switch.
And it's a fun mind game. It really makes this game it brings it to another level.
Yeah, 100%. That's the next level for sure.
And then we went to round 5. You're at top table here, table 1.
Yeah, top table. Now I'm really looking good.
Thousand Suns,
and Thousand Suns are a hard army to play, but their leader is T11 and not T12 like Death Guard. Right. And what did we say about T11?
You're happy.
Preachers love T11. Well, they don't love it, but they are very good against it.
But they're better.
They're better against it.
Yeah.
And so it's a relatively Tau-favored matchup. And I am already playing the absolute best Warhammer I know how to play.
Yeah.
And we come into a game that really matters to me, where I am seeing the finish line.
Yeah, of course. You're
and
pumped. You're stoked.
Not letting a single mistake through.
What time was this match? Was it Saturday morning? Sunday morning? Saturday.
This is the 5th match that was right after lunch on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. Okay.
So
because it was Friday, Saturday, the tournament, right?
Yeah, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
3 and 3? Friday, Saturday?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday.
Gotcha.
And so, he was a good opponent, but I was not giving him a break. I did not let the foot off the gas. I was making him do everything perfectly, or else And
when you say that, do you mean like mechanically you would call him out on things he's doing wrong or out of phase or stuff like that, or not that it would be wrong to do that? I'm curious what you mean.
Of course, and I hope any opponent I face calls me out if I do anything wrong.
Right,
I don't.
Right.
I do everything as cleanly as I can. But no, I mean, you need to know my threat ranges. You need to keep yourself at that outside of that threat range. You need to know where I can see you from and where I can't. You need to know what game plan is on my mind for that turn.
And punish.
And if you make those mistakes, I'm going to capitalize on those mistakes.
Makes perfect sense.
Because at this point, I'm looking at that finish line and I am going full throttle.
Salivating.
Yeah, you're almost there. Yeah.
I am not winging anything. I know where those guys are going. I know what they're doing on the board.
And if I may, I think, having not played either Tau or Thousand Suns myself, I feel like they're kind of in a similar category, right? They kind of fold under a lot of rubrics can't take a lot of fire. Like, they're just marine bodies. They go down pretty fast, but they hit like a truck, right? Tau, similar box, do you think?
So it is a very similar box, and at the same time, it's the exact opposite.
Okay.
So they have Cabal points.
You're right, Ben, but also
You're
very wrong.
Horribly wrong.
Get out of here.
They have Cabal points, and the more units they have alive, the more Cabal points they have.
Right, of
so
course.
they go from stronger to weaker.
Whereas
Tau go from weaker to stronger.
Very good point. Very good point.
So it's this cool 2 triangles that hit in the middle, and you want that middle
to favor you, obviously.
Favor you.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you're both going to hit that turn 3, and you're like, okay, where are we at here? Where is this game state? And how do I just capitalize now?
Exactly.
That's a very good point. I hadn't even considered that much. Yeah, you're at your strongest usually with Thousand Suns. Turn 1, turn 2. Sometimes you have stuff in rhinos or off the board, but turn 2 for sure, you're kind of bringing it all to bear.
It's usually your go turn, right?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
And so that's how it's the opposite.
So you punished him?
I punished him
for every little bit?
I absolutely did not let my foot off the gas. I punished him for every mistake he made, and I took the win home from that game. and it was I even burned his home objective.
Oh, this was Scorched Earth?
This was Scorched Earth, and I burned his home objective with one single breacher model.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes, standing in the center of his home.
How's he do?
burning
He's
it.
just shooting the ground, eh? Just
Exactly.
For the greater good!
yeah.
I told you breachers like Thousand Suns.
Yeah,
They
that's
proved
right.
it in this game.
Amazing.
And
Very
so
well done.
that put me at 5-0.
Right.
And when you're at that 5-0 waiting for the final round, you can check the opponent win percentage and your opponent win percentage and everybody else's undefeated opponent win percentage, and you can almost find out who you're going to play
Right, yeah,
and
you
what
kinda
match
know.
is going to determine the winner of the event.
Right.
And at that point, I could tell I was facing Sisters, and the winner of our match would win the largest
The whole
event
thing.
in Canada.
Spicy.
And so
Your blood's got to be up a little bit. Adrenaline's pumping.
yeah, so
Nervous?
This is where I'm very nervous, and I've never played Sisters in my life.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
This is the wrong time to start playing
This
it.
is the wrong
yeah.
The biggest tournament in Canada
Yeah.
the whole year. Final table. Oh.
Yeah, wrong time. Wrong time to learn what they do.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah, that's
Anyways,
And so this is a learn on the fly, and this was an incredible game.
All right.
This was a rough game. Unfortunately, we're both running many units. He's running 22 or 23 units. I'm running 18 units. And
Right.
we went to time. So the matchup was very close. And
There, when you say went to time, you used a clock or
yeah,
chess
so
clock? Always.
I play chess. I always use a chess clock.
Fair enough. Yep.
This game is meant, in my opinion, is meant to be played on a chess clock.
I think at a competitive level, that's a very fair assessment.
Yes,
That's
of
very
course.
fair, yeah.
I'm talking at this high competitive
Yeah, of
level
course, of
where
course.
you're in these 6-round events.
Yeah.
People come
100%.
a long way. You want each player to get the same amount of time
Of course.
in a match.
Of course, yeah.
And so I always play on a chess clock, and and so the round ended, but the chess clock also ended. We both
Yeah,
used
I
up
was
all of
going to
our
ask
time.
if it was you timed out, he timed out, kind of just round ended, whatever it was.
He did end up timing out. I still had 3 minutes left on the clock.
Okay.
There is a rule where if you have less than 10 minutes left total on the clock when you
You
go
share.
into round 5, you cannot move to the next round.
oh, okay.
So
Cannot move to that. Oh, to
So
the
when
next
did
round
this
of the
time
game,
out
like
then?
next
Round
round.
4?
yeah, so round 4 we
Okay.
timed out.
Gotcha.
Now, if I would have kept up to 10 minutes on my clock, could I have pulled out the game? Like, yes, if I look at it objectively, I think
Right.
I could have.
Yeah.
Does that mean that's how I want to win a game like that to win this event? Probably not.
I mean, you take it though.
I would have taken it.
If there was 11 minutes on your clock, you bet your butt
I
you'd take
would have,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But we had a great game. He
Sure.
played an incredible game of Warhammer. I am not trying to discount anything at all.
Of course, of course.
I didn't know how to face the army. I think I played it as well as you can play it going into a new army.
Okay.
And
What hurt you?
Yeah, so what
was the-
happened?
yeah,
what happened?
was the
Because this is the
weakness?
big one, right?
This
Right. Yeah, we did 5 rounds. Okay, you punish people, whatever.
Right,
but
right,
this is the
right.
big one. This is the one. Sure, you lost, but you could have won. So where are we at?
So he was running 30 arcoflagellants.
Yeah,
He warned
I'm
me.
very familiar with them. Yeah,
He warned me they were tough. I knew they were tough, and so I respected how tough they were, but I didn't respect how long it would take to kill 30.
Gotcha.
How long on the clock it would take to roll that
Sure,
many dice,
sure,
and
sure,
how
sure.
many units I would have to put into it, and how
Right.
I'd have to work around that giant center of the board.
Mm.
And so,
what did he do? He just marched all 30. Did he have them in rhinos, or did he just march them out?
he had one unit in a rhino, which I killed right away so that it wouldn't get to me turn 1.
Mhm.
Right.
And
sure.
then he marched them across the board, understanding that I couldn't kill them. And
So
if I
all
was
30 just
focused
came right there, and then
right in my face,
Yeah.
and he engaged almost every single unit I had.
7-inch
in the front.
move. Crazy.
And he
Yeah.
can, with Miracle Dice, you can auto 6 one of your 2
Yep.
dice for a charge.
Sure.
So a 7-inch move plus a 6 plus D6
Yep.
charge
Yeah,
is
it's pretty fast.
it's pretty
Pretty
fast.
fast.
So I
Very
did play
fast.
very well where he was hitting Devilfish, hitting
Sure, of
Riptides,
course.
hitting the stuff I didn't care about.
Right.
But he engaged most of my army. And when you stop a Tau army from moving, you're really limiting its ability to play the game they want to play.
Of course. Of course. yeah.
So
Of
it
course.
was a very close game.
Yeah.
And at that
Yeah,
point,
I think it was eight points in it, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
8 points.
Yeah,
And I'm
Yeah.
assuming the Zephyrs were in deep strike. They came out, started scoring points in the backfield.
absolutely, they came
Yeah.
in my backfield. My
Yeah,
my 2
Crusaders
solo
doing
commanders
stuff.
came into his
What
backfield.
was our Pencha doing?
Actually, it just died against me. It came out of deep strike
What
or
are the
strat
rep-
reserve.
what are the-
Strat
what are-
reserve.
What are the
Strat
Repentia
reserve.
again? That's the wing. The
They're
angle
glass
wings?
cannons. No. They're like the cloth girls. They have,
cloth cross.
they have eviscerators. They're strength 6,
I
AP
thought
minus 2
that was
damage
the
weapons.
flagellants. No, that's the...
No, the flagellants are like little flail. Like they have like metal arms.
Gotcha, right.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, I was thinking of the wrong ones. Yeah,
They're
not the naked ladies. Naked ladies are the Repentia.
Yeah, that's right.
Got it.
Yeah, so they have 5 Feeling Pain, 6 up invul.
Gotcha.
They do a lot of damage because they can hit on the charge. They can reroll all hits and wounds, and then you give them a +1 to wound strat. So like it can almost kill. Like I was playing with my Repentia the other day, and it killed a Bloodthirster actually with one.
Yeah. But
you can do it. It's just, and they're only like, again 110 points for
Arcoflagellants. Okay, and those are the tougher ones. Gotcha. Right.
Yeah, they have a 4 Feeling Pain, 2 wounds.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right. That was the problem.
They're the tougher ones that
For sure.
take a while to kill.
Gotcha.
They're not. You roll a lot of dice. They take a long time to kill. They do very little damage to me, but they hold me in place while
which
the
is
rest
all
of
you
his
need to
army
do.
moves
Yeah.
around the table.
Right, exactly.
So he was playing a very difficult list to face. And when you don't know an army and you're facing it for the first time and stresses are at the high,
and he's super good at the army,
and he's very accomplished.
Yeah,
you know
you're
what I mean?
in trouble. Yeah,
it's a very difficult game.
Of course.
And so it was still very close. I still made him pull out absolutely every trick in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he told me that he'd never used that many miracle dice. He was scraping the bottom of his codex for anything his army could do to try and pull that out.
Good.
And I forced him to do everything, but he did take the win. And it was a game that I was happy to play.
Right.
Yeah. Did he revive any of the heroes?
He revived the one hero. I don't even, because I don't know the army very well. I think it was Morganval, the one on the chariot, right in the center.
The chariot's
of the board.
Judith.
Judith.
Yeah.
I don't know the army that well. So
Morven's like the warsuit.
She's the warsuit one. Yeah. So he did revive that one hero, but
for CP.
The Nundum.
Yeah. And it has the 2 flamers too, but yeah. And then it looks like the Magnifier was pretty cool too, because that one is attached to a sister unit, gives a 4 pinball, which is probably pretty annoying.
It was very annoying. That was on the unit that chariot hero joined.
Yeah.
And they were in the
which
center
is
of the
-1
board.
to hit, 4 pinball, and then
and you're bringing the
Just
hero
a
back to the
disaster.
dice.
Yeah.
All these factors made it for a very difficult game, and I think if I could play that matchup over and over, I would get to the point where I can consistently
100%.
beat it.
Yeah,
but not at that point. Not at that moment.
Makes perfect sense. We've all had those games where we're like, if I could run it back again,
sure,
it would be a different game.
But
for sure.
of course, my opponent might play differently if he could run it back again. So it's hard to judge that. But that was
two
a great
good players playing well, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Absolutely. And so I was happy to lose that match to him and give him the win, and I know that I will be back in that position.
Yep, for sure.
And that next opponent is going to have to hold on.
How did that?
Better watch out. Cass,
what did
the next
you
top table? You better watch out.
Oh, I know.
I'm sisters in a tournament at some point, maybe.
Yeah, I will be coming in the summer. I got a few things I got to work on, but yeah, I will be.
I like it.
Sure.
I like it.
The Paragon Warsuits here with 3 maces. That's awesome. But how are those multi-meltas with rerolls?
They hurt.
Yeah,
they hurt a lot.
It's great. Hey, like it's a crazy. It's a crazy.
Like hell,
yeah. And then going Super Saiyan with Morven, it's just like, okay, relax. Like yeah.
He's doing a lot of what I'm doing with my army, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming Morven and the Paragons came from Strat Reserve too. Or did he march them? Like, no, he would have Strat Reserved them.
No, he could march them across the board because he had 30 Arcoflagellants tying up my entire army.
Right. You know what? Fair enough. Yeah, you know what? Because I usually against shooter armies, I'll put them in Strat Reserve because I'll come out, like, at least I get something with them, right? Because if you can draw a line of sight on them and just get rid of them, like, that's a really annoying thing to do because they are the kill button, right?
Yes.
So that is interesting, but that does make a lot of sense. I actually have 30 Arcoflagellants. I should be ready this week, actually.
Yeah,
I just got to paint them.
Getting some work on them.
Sorry, bro.
This is an army that I'm always happy to face because it's another really high skill cap army.
Yeah, totally
where you
is.
Really have to know the interactions of the game. When you charge in, not every model can base. Now you can do other things, consolidate into other units, pull other things in combat, like breachers that could have normally -2 to your charge that you're pulling into combat in unconventional ways. So it's that really high skill cap where both players are playing the best top of their game with these rules that are really designed for those high skill moments.
Oh, I totally agree, and that's why it's something that drew me to Sisters too, because it was such a high skill cap army, and I had to learn like my guys can't survive everything, right? Like I have to use my utility the best way I can, and that's what really excited me about this, and also having the miracle dice can really make up for all those errors. Right, like you're trying to make a stagnant game. Like, okay, well, my dice are going to be in control of me, right? Because now I can play this control game, right?
Yes.
And that's what initially, drew me to these guys, and I have probably about, I think, 2,500 points of them, but it's not quite where I want to be with competitive because I'm still learning them a little bit, right? And they're a completely different playstyle than Death Guard, and that's where my struggle comes in.
Very fast, very low toughness, not.
But they're fast. You know how cool it is for me to move a model 6 inches?
the board is available to me. World's my oyster.
Oh, wait a second. I can come out of a rhino and do 9. Oh my. Okay, now I'm already in a charge range, and then I have a miracle dice to get in. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a hard army to face because I like to put my opponent. I love 9-inch charges because people think they're going to make 9-inch charges, and the
21%.
You're not going to make a 9-inch charge.
Yeah.
So I like when I put my
happens.
opponent at that. But now we add a 6 from a miracle dice to a charge, and now you need a 3. We're not talking about 21% anymore.
No, it's 70.
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact number.
No, because it'd be 2 off. It's actually 80. Because it's 17, 30, no, 32, 68.
68?
Yeah.
66.66, 67%.
Yeah.
But
there it is.
I was enjoying you watching the journey there. But you go from a 21 to a 67, and suddenly all these tactics that I'm using, showing these 9 inches that look appealing, that are not very appealing statistically, are now very appealing because it's a 67% chance, and it takes away all of this. So it's a very difficult matchup, and I enjoy playing it.
Oh, cool. What do you think that's actually a bad matchup for you, or do you think it's just a difficult one?
No, I think that it's almost like the mirror. It's two very high skill cap armies where it's going to go either player's way depending on how much skill they bring, how tight they play, how familiar they are, which I wasn't in the matchup.
No, fair enough. Yeah, the wrong time to learn it.
Yeah.
Well, we are at an hour 36, so I would like to wrap this up. It was a lot of fun.
Amazing.
And Matt, thank you for bringing your insight. I think you bring this amazing and analytical mind to this, and it's really, really cool to hear. And what your thought process were on picking every piece to your list, and it's just really cool to hear. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Amazing show. I think, like Cass said, a lot of deep insight, and that's what I wanted to get out of the show with Tau, especially because I'm someone who is not familiar with it. Asked a million questions, asked good questions. I hope. Thank you again. It's awesome.
Yeah, I like providing the insight to players. A lot of people don't know Tau. They don't know how to face Tau.
For sure.
The more you know about Tau, the better you can play against them, the easier you can recognize
defeat you
rules.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
So now I'm going to get some really good games.
And now you got some good games coming up against you, right?
Everybody in Calgary watches our show, obviously. So now you're in trouble.
Yeah.
We'll have a whole new codex to mess with, so you'll...
Yeah, now that I've told you my whole list, it's completely changing.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, and it will change, and just because this is all theory crafting right now until you actually get on the board. True. Have you played any of the new codex at all?
I have intentionally not played any of it because of this tournament. I didn't want to mix up the old rules.
Smart.
It is very important to me that I don't mess up rules because my opponent doesn't know my rules. Yeah. So there is nobody to tell me if I'm some rules they do know, but there's nobody to tell me if I'm doing it wrong. So I must play all of my rules perfectly, and so it's very important to me that I did not touch any of the new rules in my mind
to get things messed up.
That's a great thing to say. I mean, you're holding yourself accountable, and that's awesome.
Absolutely, and everybody needs to do it in this game, I feel.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's too
obviously
many rules.
Mistakes happen. People errors occur, but I think it's a good headspace to be in where you're right. I'm responsible for knowing my army. You're responsible for knowing your army. I shouldn't be depending on my opponent to call out my mistakes. I should know my shit. So,
and 100%. Also at the same time, your opponent never has your best interest in mind.
That's true. Well, actually, like I said, kind of at the beginning in 40K, a lot of the time they're like, actually, you are not strength 5. You are strength 6. I see that happen all the time. Even
you would
stuff,
on threes.
But you definitely can't count on that. You can't count on that. You should know your stuff. I agree entirely. So very, very, very good insight on that. So.
100%. Yeah, and hey guys, if you like this content, we want to come up with more. We have another guest coming up. I think we're going to be talking about Astra Militarum.
Ooh.
Yeah, as our next guest.
We're going to get him finally.
He's coming on.
He's coming.
Yeah. I hope you're listening there, Adam. But
whoa. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Hot take alert.
He wanted to come on the show. He's enjoying it.
That's
and
right.
I just want to get his insight on Astra Mil. I think it's a really, really cool army.
Yep.
my brother plays it. He played it ad nauseum for a long time until he started hating moving a million models and rolling a million dice.
You should let him know.
He went to Grey Knights after that.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey guys, if you are enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. It does go a long way. It's a click away. But comment anything that you'd want to know about it. I'm sure if you ask me a question about Tau, I'm just going to text Matt anyways. So
ask all the questions. We love the engagement. For those who are not aware, liking, commenting, subscribing, smashing that notification bell over the head repeatedly is how we can grow as a podcast, how we get out to more eyeballs. Leaving comments is great. Like, I think I was telling Cass the other day, like, I had someone recognize me at a local store. Like, he said, "Hey, Bloodbath Tactics," and I was like, "Wait, what?" Oh yeah, I do a podcast.
Hey, yeah, this is how we get to Z level fame.
Yeah,
Z level.
Listen, if we work real hard, we can get to like an X or something.
Oh,
I'm sure we can get X. Chemical X.
Yeah. Well, but either way, like, I just like doing it, and just like,
of course,
I like learning from other players, different perspectives as well, because like I personally will never play Tau. Ever in my life.
Wow,
it's just not it's just not my play style. I don't.
That's true.
I've actually probably played Tau. They're probably one of the most matchups I've played against. I just have my friend plays Tau quite a bit. I've gone against Ian a handful. Every tournament we always go against each other. Yeah. Or the league or whatever, or Matt or Mike Whittington. Like there's quite a bit of Tau players. There's enough Tau players in the city that I just always line up with them. So, I never played enough of the new. I think you're the first person I played in the 10th edition Codex, but the 9th I played him a bunch.
I'm honored.
Oh, yes.
He's honored.
You broke my virginity. Yeah.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah. Exactly where I want to be.
Well, you got to do like the After Dark version for that. Just save that. All right.
Yes. Well, again, thank you again very much, and I hope to see you soon.
You will absolutely see me soon with the new Codex.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Love it.
Can't wait to see you in the tops.